when I look at higher education, especially in the States, there's so much upheaval and unrest having to do with faculty administration.
And it doesn't have to be that way, you know, but it depends. You have to be very careful because sometimes, as a chancellor, for example, there's a routine and there's prerequisites. So I was prepared these things and I said, but there's no one I said, I want something. No, let's see. I don't think this is the time to do this. And if it's done, it's not in this time. So you have to, so the problem is that some administrators, what important is academics, because we don't have the sort of going up stages and they're
Because it's put in.
so yes, so they pluck you out of the classroom or the lab, and they sit you there with a lot of power and don't have the slightest idea. And then some of these people they tend to just sign whatever, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So, because okay, we need to get these, and so they just like, well, how was it done the last time? Which is okay. I mean, we should always look at that. But you're paid to analyze and decide, not to have somebody else decide. And then decide. And I think a lot of the problems have to do with that.
I think so too, and I think that we, for a long time, where we do have the process of people looking up, what we've done is we've taken really good researchers and put them into administration, and they don't necessarily have those skills that are necessary to make those decisions, to analyze what needs to be analyzed and analyzed. Not their.
That's why we have she was a chancellor. When I was leaving, she was coordinator for chemistry. And at that level, she's doing research and, you know, so movement and people on campus. And that was very authoritative. Oh, she was leading, you know, you could tell Christian what to do. And talk back. That's why it was and also the golden detail.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then people obey as a chancellor. For all these positions in my mind, I decide, you know, the same thing that was going through my mind. I'm kind of so I think it's saying, you know, you can sit down, you cannot sit down with, say, if I am the Dean of Graduate Studies, rector, which is the president. I cannot sit down and have a talk and listen. I think this is hard to, you know, this is my turn. I know this. Luckily, with the first chancellor,
That's the same with me. That I would only take it in the situation where I would be able to say things and bring what my
you know, when you're a piece of the cake that you deal with, you're the most knowledgeable person. Just like the head of a department. Sometimes the head doesn't work, but you get these letters from, you know, members of the department telling you certain things, and it's being recurrent. You better listen to them.
Yeah, it's
The funny thing is, I didn't have anyone to talk to because I was the only So my peers were here in the States, the Council of Graduate Schools, and they were my, you know, I had adopted a mentor there.
Yeah, that's great.
Should we get them to report out?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Grab these sheets at least.
Yeah.
Ready to report on I like it. If you would be so kind as to, and just remember those people from your table first day, if you put us their name and institution, we'll find their email if you go me I wasn't. Good
They gave you a cue. But they didn't give me with the understanding that we
He said, no, for this, you got to vote. Yes, so,
don't criticize my handwriting. My handwriting stinks.
when I asked you this question,
They don't need to know where Q is. I was one of those unfortunate flat road rides. So the end result was my handwriting stinks all around. I'm switching now.
Yeah, let's just get it out, just put 2 minutes at the table or something, So are we ready for the report now? We have about 2 minutes per table, because the main organizers have asked us to try to be back into the room at noon, which is only in a few minutes.
So why don't we start with how you missed it?
This is the part that's crazy. Okay.
I don't know. It depends on the higher.
Megan, is it you?
Yeah, okay, so we had number Four? Yeah. Four. So how to better organize universities' response and efforts. It was we were talking about what it means to be able to measure this and be able to kind of collaborate on what it is to us. So we broke it down that you have to end up measuring it a little bit by the numbers. How many institutions are involved, how many people are involved, what products are produced, who they are, what resources they provide, where they're from, and then eventually have those kind of a website analytics of what it is to see who's using it and how it's being used. That was a piece that we came with. And then that really should be a network of ready-to-go resources and how people can find an expert. So you can take that piece and you can find it and say, we're researching or we're about ready to respond or enter into the response and recovery phase of a disaster. Who has done this before? What can we learn? Those lessons learned are easy to find through there. And then also possibly with that, some tier and phases that people can self-identify with and say, when you're communicating to somebody else across the country about what your maybe support you're needing, say, I think we're almost out of phase 1, tier 2, entering into this other one. So there's some common understanding, even though that's going to be something different for each community. Anything else about that? That was your idea. And then that there could be this, that RISE can be this platform that will provide guidance in the network to the support of the pre, post, and the long-term recovery. What scope is this going to be? How do we organize information as it starts to change from response into recovery into the long-term recovery? And that if you ever really do fully recover from something, to help people even understand that recovery, it might not happen the way that you think, but you're not going to realize that until maybe year 2 or 3 after you've done something. And anything else? Good? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we go to the back?
So how do we measure the repository? First, we want to say that there should be 2 different types when you're talking about it. One is for the content, the resources. And the second would be the communication of the knowledge, sharing of the knowledge, not just the content itself. And so we looked at process design and impact metrics. Process would be how the material is vetted for credibility, making sure that it actually is a credible source. What is the criteria for the different types of submission of content? And having that on the backside, you've got a lot of backside work to do. And then for the design piece, and how do you measure it? Is it dynamic? Is it easy to use, aesthetically pleasing, user feedback, etc.? And then the impact, the contributions, are they of the high quality that are useful to institutions? The connections that are happening on those via chat, email, phone, maybe different ways to measure that and do a conversational analysis if need be. Then we also wanted to say, think about the quality and the quantity metrics. So you can do the quantity very easily on the hit counts, the traffic to the site, number of interactions, number of contributions, but then the quality of the types of content, resources, connections, etc. And that with multiple audiences, you're going to have lots of tabs, so the metrics may differ slightly based on who the audience is that's actually going there.
That's perfect. Thank you. Please stay right here in the middle.
Lieutenant Pellerin.
Development of institutional incentives that perhaps for faculty to engage in local work, because we didn't get specific on that because that's going to be something that each institution will decide how to best incentivize their faculty. We're not going to reinvent tenure, but maybe there are ways to otherwise incentivize this work. The second was to, well, this is just reiterating what was sort of said, but to provide an actually designated RISE community liaison, of however that gets imagined within universities and within the network. The third was to come up with some sort of statement, hopefully in collaboration with communities. It would be great if the RISE network actually brought community members in to think about what that statement might look like, so it's not just academics trying to decide what that is, but some sort of common statement that we could agree on, maybe within the hub of how to best engage with communities at a high level. So you can share that with faculty and we have some common understanding of what that means, what that looks like. The fourth was trying to map out what this, the establishment of RISE hubs, being ambitious here, thinking about what that might look like in terms of universities being linked within a regional space, but also each of those universities having guess Cecilia would say capillary, whatever you would say.
Capillarity?
Capillarity, yes, into the different communities. The fifth, document, so, what administrators kind of need to hear, documenting the research efforts that are in this space, how many research projects are focused on resilience, how many faculty are involved, how many students are engaged, providing those metrics and feedback, but also including, we don't write this down, but things like diversity and enhancement of those kinds of inclusionary efforts. And then sixth, document community impact and evaluate it. So however we think we want to do that, that's in quotes.
And last but not least,
Well, we had a long discussion around less a metric for the goal that had been identified, or goals that had been identified, and more around something that a couple of the other students have mentioned, which is the short and long-term response and what RISE's role should be. So, in the short-term response, I think, which was what we identified, was the original ask, at least in New York State, from the governor to assist with Puerto Rico. There was an ask for things. What do you have? What can you send? But if we are looking at RISE as more of a long-term, if we're looking at RISE letting me know that I need to get to the train station.
So they're reportedly quick.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're looking at RISE in the short term and we're supplying things, people, staff, whatever it may be, that's something that obviously we can measure in terms of how much is supplied, how long they were there, what roles they performed, so we could have metrics for that. If we are looking at RISE from the perspective I think that's really been pushed here at the conference altogether, in terms of being a long-term support mechanism in some way, bringing, then we're looking at bringing things like subject matter expertise, collecting knowledge about the response operations that we've been on, from PRU, from Chico, from all these organizations, collecting that and then bringing that back and sharing that. It gets a little bit tougher to measure the effectiveness of that in terms of, okay, we helped PRU to connect with various resources and identified local contacts. How do we measure that? But to be frank, we kind of talked more about what RISE's actual function should be, as opposed to how we measure whatever function that is that we apply.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think this is a dynamic situation, right? A dynamic conference, and just getting some beginning pieces like this that you just started to talk about is a really good idea.
I just wanted to mention one other thing which suddenly occurred to me, right, and maybe Michael can answer this question. One of the things that everybody has mentioned is ask the communities, find out from the communities what they need. Talk to the communities instead of coming in as Lord Bountiful, seeing what they want. What a lot of us seem to be focusing on is creating this repository of case studies and knowledge and so forth. Michael, you're an emergency management person, right? And there are professional societies in this, and there are experts in this. Is this anything they want?
And I think I mentioned this in our conversation about it is a lot easier to go to an emergency manager, to go to a logistician, to go to the general from the National Guard who's running a response and say, I have this thing for you, or I have these people for you, than it is to come and say, I have something ephemeral for you. I have ideas, I have knowledge, because they're going to say, I have 500 people who have knowledge. What is unique about the knowledge that you're applying? There are entire people, there are people, there are individuals and organizations, there are entire organizations that are dedicated to just going to places and sharing knowledge. The question is, where do we want to fit in that? And how are we going to sell this? I will say this, in looking at the mission statement that we came up with, it's a lot. And if you go to a response, whether it's a flood in Middletown, New York, or whether it is a earthquake in Haiti, and you go and say, here is our mission, and I realize it's in flux and that we're still working on what it is, and you present that mission statement to them, they're going to say, so what do you have? You know, that means nothing. So people on the ground during, whether it's response or recovery, they want pragmatic solutions, and often those solutions come in the form of stuff. So that's...
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I want to say, I mean, I think it's been a really productive 3 days. Obviously, it's, you know, RISE is still, as we're still trying to define it, and there are issues with these conversations because it's not defined yet, but they're all constructive for us to hear the kind of challenges that you're putting forward, the criticisms. Very, very helpful. I mean, I think some of the, you know, the kind of ambitious moments and statements that we're making as well are helpful for us as we begin to kind of try to figure out how we operationalize this. So I really just want to say that I appreciate all of your time and all of your thoughts, and I hope that you kind of stick with the RISE platform and see what we do with it. So thank you so very much.
I would also like to mention there are a couple of organizations within universities that have a similar function to what I think RISE wants to do. And I think I mentioned one to you yesterday, Jake, Intercept
Yeah.
at NYU, which is sort of a working group, but they also liaise and bring people together. They do monthly webinars where they talk about this. There's emergency management within City University of New York that touches upon a lot of those things. So there's organizations that we could reach out to, have at the next RISE conference to help to define what RISE can and should do.
I think, and that was some fantastic criticism that we had yesterday from the group in the back about, you know, what are other institutions out there that are doing this, what are the federal people who are doing this, and making sure that we're not duplicating effort and finding gaps, and it's everything that we need to hear, so thank you so much.
Yes. Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for your time, your attention, your ideas, and your energy. And well, I'd say let's transition into the room for the lunch and the final of the plenary programs, and then the courthouse. So thanks so much, and it's a pleasure to meet you all and work with you. I just moved it when they were talking. I didn't even think of it before, and then suddenly thought.